Christian leaders, this is Pastor John Richards, and welcome to the Christian Leaders Book Club.
Hey, Christian leaders, I'm Pastor Christopher J. Harris, and I'm your co-host, Christian Leaders Book Club. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday to all of you. And just like that, we are back at it. We being my co-host, my partner in rhyme, the pastor, the Esquire, Pastor John C. Richards Jr. What's up, sir?
What's going on, my man? How you doing?
Man, doing amazing, thankful for this platform and thankful for the opportunity that we have to come and have these monthly discussions to help people learn, to create a catalog of not just content, but conversation around critical topics. And I'm excited about this book. It's not, if we were afraid of people and afraid of some thorny issues, we probably would have read this book and be like, nah, let's not talk about this publicly.
Let's not have a conversation about it.
But this book absolutely goes there. It deals with the elephants in the room and in our culture for today, and really deals with some very uncomfortable topics. But we're gonna unpack the book. It's not like we preset to say, oh yeah, let's be viral or let's be trendy. But it just happened to be the book that we picked for this month. We picked all of our books a year ago. I say a year ago, at the end of last year. So let me be honest in that regard, or more clear in my communication on that. But here we are, right? And before we jump in, Pastor John, I feel like there has been like a constant barrage of just one thing after another in terms of hot takes and things for people to get upset about and things to be distractions, just one thing after another. Do you feel the same thing? Like,
man, listen, it's getting crazy. Like, even with people passing away, hot takes happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
like
death has become a hot take thing for a lot of folks. And I'm like, man, what doesn't get a hot take? What's not gonna get it? Goodness gracious. So I agree with you, man. We're in a very tense culture right now.
Yeah. So I just feel like as followers of Christ, we've got to get to a place where we are like willing to not be so ready to be offended, not be so ready to go off to all the stuff that goes along with it, like this rage that people have, this this spirit of offense that people have. I feel like we got to figure out, how to be different in that regard. So,
Yep.
So here's our book list for this year, and we've been walking through, the journey together on this, and it's been good, man. So you want to kind of walk everybody through? We actually made one edit to this list, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But go ahead. You want to start at the beginning?
Yeah. So we started this year. Generally, we try to start with kind of a productivity type deal, or kind of a book that helps you kind of think through things. So we started out with 48 Days to the Work You Love by Dan Miller. We both felt that it was a good book for anyone who is exploring new job opportunities. Obviously, we've been in spaces for longer periods of time, so it wasn't directly applicable to us, but we definitely knew there were some folks who might appreciate it for the season of life they were in.
Yep. Let's see. We did, of course, in February, we did Up From Here, which was just an incredible resource, an incredible guide. that talked about economics, but talked about it from a African American lens, in particular, John Hope Bryant. And he's actually, man, it's been interesting because his maybe he has been there and I just didn't know it, but his social media influence has been growing. I've seen him on a number of other platforms that otherwise I probably wouldn't have seen him on. So it's been really good. And then, of course, as we moved into March, we represented our sister Lisa Fields, who talked about when faith disappoints. You want to talk about that one really fast?
Yeah. So Lisa is an apologist, has several resources around apologetics, particularly ones in the Black church space as well. And so we felt that book was pretty good, a primer, but also felt there were some missed opportunities in terms of being able to point to the other more deeper resources she has. And so that was one of the critiques that we had. But besides that, I mean, it's a good primer, and also was kind of biographical in a sense, you would say, right? So,
yep. Next, we went to the Soul Winning Church, which was just full of just incredible recentering about the focus for spiritual leaders and religious leaders and ministry leaders around the priority of helping to win people to the gospel and helping to win people back to Christ. And then what does that look like to make sure that that's a part of the culture of your church, that you're not just preaching about it on Sunday, but it's actually etched into every single thing that you all do. So that was really good. The following month, Healing Leadership Trauma, man, we could have highlighted the whole book.
Right. It was a lot, man. And as I mentioned last time we talked about that one, just seeing that coming from authors who are persons of color, writing from a kind of like a psychological perspective was very, very rich and helpful for me in terms of like seeing that we can thrive in that space and kind of help our people as well.
Yep. So this next one, Super Communicators, we actually skipped that one just because of a scheduling issue. But as we discussed privately or offline rather, we're going to put that at the end of this year. And one of these months at the end of the year, we're going to do a double dose. So we'll do 2 books in 1 month here toward the fall. So looking forward to that. And so then today, we pick up with this book by Jim Wallace, titled The False White Gospel. The False White Gospel.
Woo, boy.
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you something. The title itself was like, hey, come on, brother Jim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't scared. He was not scared.
Yeah.
He's like, let's go for it. Let's talk about it. Let's make it happen.
Right. So I as we talked about prior to hopping on, I've known Jim Wallace's work for a long time, since I was in seminary. Obviously, coming out of law school, his work kind of resonated with me, him being in DC and Sojourners. And he wrote a book a long time ago called God's Politics. That was one of my favorites in terms of like approaching political issues from a God's eye view. And so Jim Wallace has always been a good person to see as an ally in the space. And even hearing some of his story in this book as well, you can kind of see some of the influence he's gotten from Black church and then also Black folks. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. This was my first introduction to him. You introduced the book and sort of shared with me some of the framework for it and suggested it. And so when we looked at the description and all that stuff, and it made sense for just the flow of where we are and kind of what we were looking for this month. So this is my first introduction to him. I see he's got, a bunch of other books. You just mentioned the God's Politics. He's got the Christ and Crises, Rediscovering Values, The Soul of Politics, Faith Works, Who Speaks for God, The Call to Conversion, The New Radical, Revive Us Again, Agenda for Biblical People. So I look forward to just digging in some more to some of the things that he's saying and some of the writings and that kind of thing. What is your overall takeaway from this book? Let's deal with that first.
Overall takeaway from this book is it is a good book to be kind of an elementary entry-level primer on the process through which white evangelicals took in order to make it to the place that they are today. Which means that there are going to be instances where they value political parties and country over what the Bible actually says.
I agree with that. Here's a question that I'd like to ask you. Who would you say is the target audience for this book? Will you say it's Christians, or do you think it's anybody?
The target audience, I would say, are white Christians. Only because he does a lot of direct conversation in some spaces, in some spots in the book with white evangelicals. And then others are kind of like in the room listening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and he's done a lot of ecumenical work, so I can see how some of it could be for anybody, but there's definitely a lot of like biblical text in there as well. So, like, I'm thinking about like Muslim activists may not be as interested in some of the things apart from Jesus being a prophet.
Yeah. As I'm reading through the book, I start to think through some of these questions, like who's the target audience. And as I looked at it, I'm thinking, at least in one case, like he's throughout the book, he's telling some of his own personal stories, right? Like the point when he walked away from the faith and why he walked away, because the guy at the church told him, like, keep the politics out of church, that kind of thing. And if that's what this is, I don't want no parts of this faith. So when I listen to that, I think you're right in that I think he's very clearly targeting individuals who may be susceptible to falling into the white Christian nationalism trap.
Right.
Yeah. And especially like when you get to chapter 4, where he sort of unpacks some of the truths and the lies that this camp believes. I think he's really so I say all that to say, I think that this book is an apologetic for the white evangelical church.
Wow. I like it. I think it is. I think it is. I think it is, because it walks them through facts and truth about how they got here.
How it got here, the history of it, certain historical facts that they may not have been exposed to previously. And even just very like, okay, so I enjoyed the book. I felt like some of the chapters were really long and drawn out. So like the chapter, like the chapter he deals with the neighbor, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm like, bro, I get it.
Right. We understand. Hey, all you had to do was say what you said in the beginning or in the title of the chapter. Your neighbor doesn't live next door.
So, but then here's where my patience kicked in, because I'm like, but if he's writing to somebody and this is breaking their box, this is totally shattering how they were raised, what they were taught, what is normal for them, then he's got to take the time to walk them through this.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. He's got to be patient and walk them through what Jesus is saying. So I get it. And we're looking at it through the lens of, hey, we know this text. We've been in this space. We know it. So I totally get that for sure.
Yeah. Last question, and then we'll probably jump into some of the chapters. Those that disagree with what he's saying and suggest in the book, if they are reading this, what are they thinking?
Yep.
That's my question to you. What are they thinking?
If they are, what, the white evangelicals as they're reading it?
Yeah.
First of all, they're mad because the truth hurts. In fact, yeah. You mean reading this book? If I'm a white evangelical and I'm reading this book and you're calling me out as a white evangelical, I'm gonna be mad.
Okay.
I'm gonna be offended.
Okay.
Because And part of it is because that's part of my identity.
Huh. Huh.
And now you're attacking who I am as part of my identity. But now I got to do some introspection, right? If that is your identity, and this is scripture, and this is what Jesus has said, then why the offense?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
the offense and not repentance?
Yeah. 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 There's a part of me that as I'm listening to this, I'm wondering, like, is he answering their objections?
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure that he is. Like, is he answering their objections? You know what I mean? And yeah, that's it's gonna be interesting to see how these messages continue to evolve and unfold. We'll get to this, I'm sure, but man, I loved hearing some of the behind the scenes stories of some of his experiences, especially when it felt like it was more comfortable to be sort of involved in both parties.
Right.
Bipartisan, that was the word I was stuck on for just a second. Like he at one point he's meeting with Clinton, at another point that he's going into a conversation, private meeting with Bush as he gets elected. Though it was, to me, I was like, I'm reading this and I'm like, man, that's so refreshing.
It is, man. It is. And then like reading about Bush, like as much as folks talk bad about him, like you could see in the book that he really was wrestling with this issue of poverty and was very candid with him about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey man, I don't know poor. I don't know poverty. Like I grew up with silver spoon essentially. Help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it, man. Let's walk through some of these chapters. So I think it's great that he, obviously he's using scripture as a huge basis of the book. He ties in some history, historical, not just analysis, but also historical facts, historical events that took place. But then he's telling like his own story a little bit through this and some personal conviction things and all that. So I think those three things combined, really help to kind of lay a great foundation for the book. It's interesting because in the introduction, and then in chapter 1, man, he does not hold any punches back to say like we're in crises.
Like he is sounding the alarm big time. Sound the alarm. And like part of it is like some of the storytelling is like, man, he's talking about pastors who have told him, man, I only have people for 2 hours a week if I'm lucky. Fox News has them for 24/7, which is like, yes, absolutely. Because when you hear people talk, you hear their talking points, but it's like, where'd you get that from? Because everybody, we're all saying the same thing. All saying the same thing. So it had to come from somebody. So now you're allowing the news networks to pastor you and shepherd you.
Yeah. That's so true, man. So true. So he makes a very clear statement and a very bold statement that from his experience, and let me see, I looked it up. I think he's in his 70s now, right?
Yep.
I think he's in his 70s. Yeah.
I believe so.
So he's seen a lot, right? He's seen a lot, been exposed to a lot, doing a lot. He says that white Christian nationalism, in his view, is the greatest single threat to democracy.
Yep.
And then he says that this is a violent misuse of Christian identity.
Yep.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Then, why do you go ahead?
One of the other things he mentions in the introduction is that they have a strategy in modern terms. He says that's to prevent our changing demography from changing our democracy. Like all of this is because the writing is seen on the wall in terms of our population. And now moving from majority white to being minority white, they're trying to figure out how can we finesse this thing in order for us to continue what we have seen in our democracy. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's happening. That's at the
Yeah.
core essence of what's happening.
Yeah. 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 There's a part of me, as I'm reading through this and as I read through this, that like I was wondering, like, why the fear?
Mm.
Like, why such the strong fear of the embracing of the other or the embracing of another ethnicity than your own? Like, why the fear?
That's a good question, man. That's a good question. I think it's because if I can, and he talks about this in later chapters, if I can find a way to other others, then the Imago Dei no longer is applicable.
Mm. Mm.
If I can find a way to scar the Imago Dei in them and make them other and put them in another category, now I don't have to treat them as image bearers, but someone who
So
now
true.
has a flawed image that needs some type of redemption.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking
No,
about scientific redemption.
right.
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 So yeah, I think that's from my perspective. I think it is.
I think I can agree with that. I do like what he does in the book. Rich Velotis, shout out to Pastor Rich Velotis.
Yeah.
Never met him in person, but I feel like he's my brother. He made a statement that I borrowed in a message that Wallace I can't say Wallace picks up on. Maybe Velotis got it from Wallace, or maybe it's just been one of those things that's out there. But he does a masterful job in my mind of conveying the idea, and he even references like Achan, right, in terms of sin. That the issue of racism, white Christian nationalism, it's not just a matter of individual sin. It is also systemic.
Yeah.
And until you embrace both of those things, you're imbalanced, right? Because if you embrace the systemic or talk about the systemic, but you never deal with the individual, the heart transformation there that's needed, then you're imbalanced still. And I feel like, a lot of ways, that's what we see. That's what we find happening in this sort of primarily two-party system. There's other parties, but it's primarily a two-party system where one party focuses squarely on individual sin and redemption there. The other party focuses on systemic sin and doesn't deal with, so like we've got to do both. We've got to do both.
So I think that individual systemic distinction is very important too. And for many white evangelicals, that's where the rubber meets the road, because, and Jim Wallace covers this a little bit, but that was the stump speech. I mean, literally for all evangelicals with all the revival culture was individual. Like systems was for Catholic churches, man. Like, y'all deal with the social moral order. We're gonna try to get people to heaven.
Yeah.
And so that's morphed now into not just ignoring the systems, but now anyone that holds up systemic issues now becomes the devil.
Yep.
Because Catholic Church wasn't the devil before. It was, hey, they're taking care of the social stuff. We're taking care of the individuals. But now it's like every word that you use, that's systems.
Yeah.
It's like it now becomes evil incarnate. That's the distinction for me that's morphed over the past 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And then not only morphed over the last 30 years, but man has become, like, social media has put like major gasoline on how quickly perspectives change and shift historically, right? It's interesting, and I appreciated this about the book. I really did appreciate this about the book. He's not just telling a story scripturally, but he's tying it in historically.
Right.
My wife and I have a family friend who's actually started out. My oldest daughter and this young man went to school together. from middle school all the way through high school, and they just became close friends. He graduated undergrad. Now he's getting ready to start law school. So we had them over to the house the other day, and just catching up. And then we wanted to pray for him before he leaves to law school. And I just felt led to say to him, like, in the area of law that he's going into, I feel like you're going to not do yourself a service, or you're going to do yourself a disservice if you just get law training in this law degree, this JD, but you don't also learn history. Like, you got to learn the history of how, like, redlining took place or prison took. So, like, if you want to be in the legal system and do prison reform, you got to know how we got here. So it's not just dealing with policy now. You got to know how we got here.
That's really good. And here's the thing that
you
really
appreciate that as a lawyer.
Man, I really appreciate that, and that's why I appreciate the fact that when I was thinking about law school, I decided on Howard Law for a couple different reasons. Number one, because of the history of advocacy at the school with Thurgood Marshall and others. But number two is in the classroom that we didn't just cover the law, we did cover the history because it's us. And so as we're walking through property law, we're talking about the Black folks not owning property and being owned as property, and talking about that from a legal perspective through the legal history of America, but also talking about it through the history of America that many of us didn't learn in high school. And so that's why they produce the lawyers that they do produce at Howard, because they understand that reality and they make sure that they cover the history as well, and not just the precedent of the cases that were set.
Yeah. I'm going to pause for just a second, Pastor John, to ask you this question. What was your favorite chapter?
Let me see which one of these was my favorite. I think lies that demand our loyalty was.
Come on, man.
I think so, man. As I'm thinking through what has morphed. I mean, he kind of went back to cable news networks and how we used to be circling around the TV watching cable news, and now it's like everybody looks at news as a source of disinformation as opposed to information. And we got a whole new language around it because of people making up language around alternative. What are alternative facts? Is a oxymoron.
Yeah.
There are facts. Yeah. How are they alternative facts? And so just reading this chapter and then reading Jesus's words about truth in the Gospels, man, the one thing that really resonated with me was where he covered the four characteristics of how democracies die in that chapter.
Yes.
No, we're not talking about the chapter yet, but this is one of the reasons why it was my favorite chapter, and I want to cover those right quick. So he talks about the authors of the book How Democracy Die. He said these scholars point to four key indicators of authoritarian behavior. Number one, the rejection in words or action of democratic rules of the game. Check. Two, the denial of the legitimacy of political opponents. Check. Three, toleration or encouragement of violence. Check. And number four, a willingness to curtail the civil liberties of opponents, including the media. Wow, bruh. I mean, if those are the four characteristics of how democracies die, we need to be a praying people or working people to move us away from it, because we hit all of those over the past several years. And it is scary. It is scary.
Yep. And by the way, for those that are watching this and that will watch this, if you get the book, it's on what Pastor John just read is on page 103. So that gives you just a quick reference there. So here's what I like to do, Pastor John, because I think he had a couple, and I'm sure when you took notes, you probably did this. I think we need to spend, let's just do a quick overview of some of the other chapters, but I think we need to spend the balance of our time in chapter 4 because he deals with those lies there.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's close out our time together, but just kind of highlighting a couple, critical quotes that you pulled from the book, and I'll list a couple of mine, and we'll just kind of talk that through.
That works. Yep.
All right. So chapter 2, let me get to my notes. So in chapter 2, he's kind of, really, chapters 2 through 7, I felt like he's kind of walking through these biblical texts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So he starts out talking about like the Good Samaritan in chapter 2, like who is my neighbor. That's the chapter I felt like it was great, right? It was biblically sound, and all of that. And I think, obviously, with the conversation today that we're having in America around immigration, that's a big question. Like, who is our neighbor, and how do we treat and how we respond to our neighbor? Mm-hmm. Those of you that are coming in, welcome to the Christian Leaders Book Club. Today we're discussing The False White Gospel by Jim Wallace, and so this is book number 6 that we've covered this year. But he spends that time talking about your neighbor and who how we walk through that and how we determine. I think that that's a question that all of us on a regular basis as Christians have to walk through.
Yep.
Talk to me. What you think?
We all need to be asking that question for sure. And I neighboring for me has expanded so much because of the amount that I've lived in different cities.
Yep.
And so here's the thing that I don't get as frustrated with people who misunderstand the concept of neighboring, because some people are in bubbles that don't know that there are other folks out there, and that takes some intentionality to do that. And so sometimes I try not to get frustrated with folks, but try to give them exposure. And I think that's what he talks about. Also talk about proximity, and the importance of proximity to people in order for us to be able to better understand that neighboring. And he does that in that chapter as well.
Yeah, I think this is I'm sure from a theological perspective, exegetical perspective, you appreciated the fact that he said, because I thought about you when I read that. He said, notice that it was a lawyer that asked the question.
Right. It sure was. It sure was one of the masters in the law.
So on page 48, he said, when he asked who is my neighbor, I love this. Let me just read this really fast. He says a lawyer was the first to ask the crucial question. I suspect he was a Washington lawyer. I don't know about that.
I know, right? I don't know about that. Some little eisegesis there. But
that's what He says, I can tell by the spirit in which he asked the question with that critical tone of voice. But here's the part I want to get to. He says what he was really asking was, who do I need to treat with fairness and even compassion?
Right.
And perhaps most important, who can I dismiss without getting into trouble?
That part. Yeah. Yep. No, that was good, man. That was the penultimate question. Like, who is it that I can, again, not treat as human?
Yeah.
And be good.
Yeah.
And be good.
Yeah. Very good. Chapter 3 really kind of unpacks that Imago Dei. So he unpacks Genesis 1:26, made in the image of God. I was intrigued. I thought it was really cool how he tied in voter suppression.
Right, the ballot box. I was like, wow, that comes into play with the Imago Dei. I can see it. Like,
I can see it.
He talks about them reflecting the belief that some votes or don't or shouldn't count. That means that people don't count. So I think that. Yeah. I thought that was good that he tied that in there as well.
Yeah. The Genesis test of our time is what he called it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love that. We'll come back to chapter 4. Chapter 5.
Yep. Chapter 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Peacemaking.
Yeah. So one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that he was like, hey, there's actually a test for this thing, and y'all ain't passing it. And again, it goes back to the idea that for years or for decades, the social aspects of it was more of a Catholic Black church thing and not necessarily a white evangelical thing. But Jesus speaks to the poor in that chapter in Matthew 25, verses 31 through 46. He kind of walks through I thought it was funny that as a student and an activist, he he started cutting holes in his Bible and used
Yeah.
that Bible full of holes as an illustration of saying, man, once we take out all the poor text, your Bible's full of holes now at this point.
Yep. Yeah. It's interesting, Pastor John. Do you think he arrives at these conclusions and has this awareness if he never starts to attend and engage in attending Black churches?
Nope. That's why I tell people all the time, man, when you are trying to understand this space, you need to be listening to the voices who have lived in it their entire lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes that takes a lot of humility, because white evangelicals have always kind of led theologically in their minds, right? But where you've fallen short theologically, you need to be able to listen to the folks who've been doing this their whole life. And so I think because he's been around us, I mean, he's mentioned Detroit, Atlanta, Ebenezer. He got an old deacon in the church talking to him while he's preaching. I was like, hey, brother, you was in the right spaces. No wonder you started Sojourners. Them Black folks don't like you.
Hey, man, I got so tickled when he told that story about the preacher yelling on the front row.
Right.
And when he got done, he said, brother, you pulled that sermon right on out of me.
He said, I've been doing that for years, the preachers. I said, oh, that's Black church for you. And listen, it happens in history all the time. He opened with Bonhoeffer. Going to New York. And that changing his entire perspective on what justice ministry looks like, man. So
Bonhoeffer,
you've seen that all over the place, man.
So I think it's worth saying for those that may listen to this as we talk about the book. I think it's worth us saying intentionally to you that as we struggle with many of the issues of our day that are very polarizing, sometimes the best thing we can do is simply expose ourselves to people who are different.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, at least like if you're not going to change your view, at least say you're not going to change it from an informed perspective. Right. Like I appreciate, like, if what he's saying is accurate, I appreciated what he said about President Bush. Like President Bush says, hey, man, I don't know anything about poverty, but I need to learn.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's such if that's exactly what happened. I'm not saying it didn't,
right.
But if that's what happened, man, that's such a humble posture to take about saying, I don't know what I don't know, but I need to know.
That takes a lot, brother. And I think that's one of the problems, man. When people don't want to admit that they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, this is across the board, man. I've seen employees like miss out on opportunities for them to be able to learn, because if they admit that they don't know anything, they don't look like they're intelligent enough or that they're capable enough to do the job. And just seeing it across the board, man, it happens socially as well.
Yep. All right, we're gonna keep it moving, and then we kind of land the plane. Let's see, chapter 6, peacemakers. Chapter 7 is about tribe, or our community is not a tribe. He spends some time talking about unity there. And that is exactly what faith groups have to offer as well: meaning, purpose, and community.
Right.
He says, but in our church worlds today, even that Christian identity is weak. Watch this. He says, Kleinfeld points out how both the right and the left each have their own condemnatory cancel cultures,
right?
Where people are defined out rather than brought in. Who is to blame and who is
defined out?
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Who is to blame and who is most at fault, and where do we point our fingers? Because more important than a positive and inviting view of inclusion and change. And we now see that cancel culture, even in some of our churches, condemning has replaced inviting, sometimes on both sides of the political aisle. And it is time to turn that around. And the churches would be a great place to start.
That's good, man. Yeah.
Imagine if faith communities were offering that sense of a community that seeks to heal our fears, overcome our divisions, and give us something to live for and not just against, and other people to live that vision with. Boy, that's so good.
Know what you're for, not what you're against.
Yeah.
Man, we'd have a better world with that, bro.
Yeah. And then the final chapter 8, rather, he spends talking about the remnant church, what he calls the remnant church. And this is what he feels like should be our response, right? Where it's repentance, it's discipleship, it's prophetic witness, it's nonviolent resistance, and all that kind of stuff. And excuse me, we would be totally negligent if we didn't at least acknowledge some of the practical guides and guidance that he provides at the end of the book, right? For families and children, for congregations, government, decision makers, pastors. Provide some sequence of steps, 10 things pastors can do, that kind of thing. So I thought all of that was really good.
Yep. That was all right. Kind of close out to make sure that he has some practical pieces on it for sure.
Yep. All right. So chapter 4, man. Chapter 4.
That was the one. The one.
This like he could have renamed this truth versus lies.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Man, the thing that struck me the most, man, and this is the thing where I think the cognitive dissonance really doesn't make sense to me, is the result of what the replacement theology has done to do harm in Black and brown communities around our nation, bro. Like, to see what that means when you hear they will not replace us.
Yeah.
And then say there were good people on both sides, quote unquote. Like I just don't understand the cognitive dissonance that happens there when you know or are supposed to know what scripture actually says. And thinking about the lives that were lost in Buffalo, lives that were lost in Charleston, like we can go on and on with the people that lost their lives because people read stuff like this, which were outright lies, and then people justified it on the other side or were silent about it on the other side, is the part that frustrates me the most.
Yeah. So the conversation about replacement theory comes up with Jews and Jewish people as well. In that space, it is anti-Semitic, and we shouldn't be talking about it. When it comes to African Americans, a blind eye is put up towards it.
Why is that?
I don't know.
I think it's chasing whiteness. For so long, Jewish people weren't seen as white. But then they were included. Shoot, Irish people weren't seen as white. Like, there were several groups who learned early on in the history of this country that quote unquote white is right. So it's like, if I can get characterized as someone who is white in America, now I'm in. And so now, you can't disparage Jews because they're white.
Wow.
When beforehand they were not considered white. As a matter of fact, the Klan, it was Jews and then blacks.
Wow.
like the Klan hated Jews more than they hated black folks.
Yeah, that's true. We got a lot to kind of think through on this, and there's a part of me that wonders. So, like, I think this is why I appreciated the book again, because he's talking about these things historically. It's not just like these random things. Let me read this quote, Pastor John, that I think helps to cement or put a framework. Let me find that quote. Framework to this chapter. This was in the book. I wrote it down when I was taking notes. He says, in regards to what's central to white Christian nationalism, he says, that fight stems from fear, the motivator of hate, and the threat to violence.
Yep. Yep.
This is how fear fuels hate, right? He said it stems from fear, it's the motivator of hate and the threat of violence.
Yep.
And I think we clearly see all three of these dimensions at play today. We see the stem of fear, the motivator of hate, and the threat of violence. And in fact, like if you take it a step further, we actually see the violence.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like actually see it.
Yeah. And I think what's powerful about that is he shows and like he pulls the covers back on the actual lies that fuels this fear. Like the fear is unfounded if you just walk in truth. So what makes it even more complex for believers is that as believers, guided by the Holy Spirit, we're the ones supposed to walk in truth. But in many cases, there are believers whose lives are built on lies.
Yeah, right. Which is what I don't understand. So I don't like he was talking about the pushback on Black history. He was like, hey, listen, Black history is American history. So for you to say we don't want to teach Black history, we'll teach American or US history, that makes absolutely no sense. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
So the whitewashing chapter was particularly one of the chapters that really resonated with me, obviously because of some of the work that I'm doing in my community locally and trying to make sure that we recapture history. But man, that's one of the things that I think more people need to be leaning in on, given the nature of where we're going with what's being taught in schools as well. So I'm glad that he was able to have that in this chapter on truth as well.
Yeah, I've been careful about how we've approached this conversation because I don't want this to be like, I don't want to just pin this as a Democrat-Republican issue or as a, Trump versus Biden or Trump versus Obama issue, because I think it's bigger than that, right?
Right.
But I think there's something to be said about the political genius of President Trump in, I don't want to use the word acknowledging, but in recognizing the undercurrent of fears that certain segments of our population have, and then feasting off of that.
Bro, let me tell you something. You must have been talking at the breakfast table this morning with my wife, because I was talking to my wife this morning about it as I was reviewing my notes, and I told her something, and she said, "Trump is a genius." So when he wrote in the book that in 2012, this man, before he descended the escalator, before he decided to run for president, he went to the Patent and Trademark Office and actually trademarked "Make America Great Again" because he knew that he could use it to stoke fears. This was 4 or 5 years before he even declared that he was going to run. This man knew exactly what he was doing. So you're right, genius. Like people talk about how stupid he is, man. This man's a genius because he saw what they were desiring or what was already in their heart, and he pulled it out.
Yeah. One of the greatest obstacles to the pursuit of truth in America today is the growing pressure for a deliberate suppression and denial of our country's history.
Yeah.
So we see that about history.
I highlighted that too.
Yeah. Did you see the video that came out like maybe a month ago? Interview with former governor from Virginia, Glenn Wilder, or not Glenn, was former Governor Wilder. What's his first name?
I don't know his first name, but I know who you're talking about. I did not see the video. Is it Mark? It's not Mark.
No.
Douglas. Douglas.
L. Douglas Wilder.
Okay.
The interview was brilliant.
Wow.
If you can find it, I would say find it and take a look at it.
Give it a listen. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Histories of slavery. I'm on page 110. Histories of slavery and racial discrimination are being taken off of our shelves, school shelves. Books by prominent African American authors like Maya Angelou, Nobel Prize winner Toni Morrison, Isabel Wilkerson are being removed. Some schools have even targeted the biographies of paragons of Black history like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. There are presently at least 50 groups with local and regional chapters that collectively number at least 300 members who are actively lobbying for book bans at the national, state, or local level. Now, here is what needs to be said.
I know. Go on and say it.
The reason why there's a desire for book banning around the conversations of sexuality in many ways has to be separated from the conversation about racism and history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Is that what you were thinking? Is that what you were thinking?
That's exactly. I knew what you were going to say, because I think they got to make that clear distinction there.
Yeah.
And here's what goes back to that truth component, right?
Yep.
Because if they can lump that in with the sexuality pieces, now other people are in a conundrum.
Yep.
People who hold a biblical, moral, ethical values, right?
Yep.
Now, when you say, "Oh no, that's not ban the books like that," they were like, "Hey, what about this one?"
Yep.
Well, we weren't talking about that. We were talking about there are two clear sets of books that are being banned. Now, if you're putting these on the same level, then we need to have a conversation.
Yes.
We absolutely need to have a conversation, because
Yes.
they absolutely are not.
Yes.
So I think that's the problem, man. When they lumped it in together, now it produces a conundrum for many people who want to hold a biblical, moral, ethical values. And I would have said yes if it was just that. I would have been cool with that. Like, I don't want my kids reading that. Like, let me parent my kids in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now you add other stuff.
Here is the at the root of the conversation for me, and I think maybe you agree with this because you said chapter 4 was your favorite chapter, like mine. And that is, like, if what you're saying has validity, why not let's deal with the conversation from a place of truth,
right,
versus a place of lie?
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Because then we don't have a fair discussion, because we got to spend time fighting the lie to help promote the truth than to even deal with the core argument itself.
That's good, man. Yeah. Yep. 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 That's the plan, though. That's the strategy. It's like, it's frustrating, man. But at the same time, having read this book and knowing Jim Wallis, it's good that the Lord continues to provide allies in that space who are whites, who have a lot to lose, quote unquote, by saying these things, right? Yeah. But knowing that they're more than willing to continue to push the envelope, it's good to see, man. Because as Black Christians, we're just like, hey, we're gonna continue to do what we do.
That's right.
But it needs to be all hands on deck, man. We need everybody.
Yeah. Look at this, man. I want to. There's like 2 or 3 quotes that just stood out to me. That was like, man, this is the tone of the book right here.
Right.
So you might have a couple too. I'm just gonna list all mine real fast.
I got one. I'm gonna give you one. You can go ahead and list me the other ones, because I got one that I want to close on.
Okay, I'm gonna let you. You have the distinct honor of closing today.
I get the close.
Yeah.
Come on, Hammond B. Let's go.
All right. Here's one of the first ones. He says, white Christian nationalism has cut out of their Bibles all the scriptures that lead to faith to justice. That lead faith to justice. Another one, he says, Jesus is a victim of identity theft in America.
Ooh, that was in the introduction, boy. I said, whoa. Now that's how we starting? That's how we starting? Yeah.
I said, good gracious. Well, that's so big right there. That's such a big statement right there.
My.
Another one he said, when we were done, all of those verses had fallen to the floor. He says about 2,000 verses in total. We were left with a Bible full of holes. So he was talking about, like, cutting out all the verses that deal with poverty and justice.
Yep. Yeah, that was good, man. He said he used to hold that Bible up wherever he went to go preach. Like, man, this Bible is full of holes if you take out all the justice and verses about the poor.
Yeah. And then the final one is, I love this one. This was in the last chapter. He says the best answer to bad religion is always true faith.
Yeah. I highlighted that one too. That was good, man.
All right, brother, close us out.
All right, I'm gonna close us out, man. So I can't close out. I can't close you out on any other quote, huh? Besides the one about the black church. Black church has become a faith-saving model for many of us from America's white churches.
Hey!
I would add black Christians as well. Like, not all black Christians attend black churches, but I think because of our unique experience here in America, like you have these stories that continue to come up where folks who are white allies like Jim Wallace have been impacted by either black believers individually or black churches as a whole. And if you talk to Bonhoeffer, he would tell you how much the church in Harlem really transformed his theology. If you talk to Wallace, he'll say the same thing. You talk to some of my white Christian friends, they'll tell you, man, just having basic conversations with John has helped frame some of the things that I'm doing. So I would encourage anyone who is listening, whether black or white, to make sure we understand that God's vision for the church to be united isn't just something for practical purposes for us to see, but it's to be able to experience other cultures and then also learn and glean from them. And so I think that that's important for every one of us who is in this society, in this culture, man. We got to be able to glean from other people's culture and then also learn how to live in society because of it.
I wholeheartedly agree. Agree.
Yeah.
And this is an amazing book. Again, for those of you that are just listening in, we've been talking about the book, The False White Gospel. That is book of the month. This is the Christian Leaders Book Club. That's my partner in rhyme, Pastor John C. Richards, all the way from the big state of Arkansas. Are you a Razorback?
No, I'm a Georgia Bulldog. Come on, man. Wait a second. Do you even know me? Hey, book club over. We're canceling the book club for the rest of the year.
Like, I know you're a Bulldog, but I just didn't know, like, if you know.
That's like me saying, hey man, are you a Gator, man? You're a Gator. Exactly. See what you just gave me? Not that we have a rivalry with Arkansas. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to leave when you said that. I was like, bro, what?
Yeah. What? But y'all don't have no rivalry with the Razorbacks, so like.
No, we don't. We beat them down every time we play them. So
yeah, that's not. It's like you got to compare apples to apples. Like to call us a Gator is actually to call us our rival. So that's two different things, bro. Like, I didn't say, "Oh, you're an Alabama guy." That'd be a different conversation.
I get that, man, but SEC pride and all that thing, all the things, man.
Oh, you know what I mean? That's true. All right, y'all. So this has been good. Go back and listen to the replay today. The False White Gospel is what we dealt with today. Check it out. It's everywhere where books are sold. I'm excited about next month's book, man. Really intrigued by it. Have you already read it?
No, I haven't. It'll be a first read for me.
Okay.
Invisible Jesus.
Invisible Jesus. That's what we're dealing with, and one of the reasons I'm looking forward to it is I've seen a lot of writing by Scott McKnight.
Oh, McKnight. Yeah.
And so one of the subliminal, not subliminal, but one of the indirect messages from the book they asked, is deconstruction a rebellion against God or a prophetic movement resisting a distorted gospel?
Oh, so tell them how. All right, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do in August then.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do in August.
We keep it real light, ain't we?
Man, listen, we've been swinging for the chandeliers every month.
Right.
Home run derby. Let me just tell y'all, Pastor John, we're wrapping up. He putting on his golf shoes right now, y'all. If y'all see him, he keep reaching down. That's because he getting ready to go golf.
Yep, we ready. Yep. Hey man, I gotta do book club. Then I gotta go swing the clubs.
I love it,
but I don't go to the club.
Hey, come on, Bars. I love it.
It's still right.
Yes. All right, everybody. Click the link that's in the profile, whatever platform you're watching this on. You can stay connected to us. We're going to be doing a better job at sending out emails and notifications, but that's how you can subscribe to our email list and connect with us. You see Pastor John's social media handles there. You see my social media handles there. We'd love to have you follow us and connect with us there. We're here once a month. Our next book club, let me just go ahead and say what the date is. Our next book club is August 29th. Yep, August 29th. August 29th, we talk about the invisible Jesus. It's going to be an amazing time. So in the meantime, y'all keep learning, keep growing, keep your appetite up, keep your mind alert and sharp, and we're going to keep growing together. Pastor John, blessings to you, man.
Blessings to you, man. Appreciate you, brother. We'll see you next month talking about the invisible Jesus.
Let's do it. Y'all have an amazing, amazing day and an amazing month.